Hello community. Are you tired of constantly being rushed by the newest meta robots in your spawn in the first 30 seconds of dropping in? Or are you tired of getting robbed of kills because you see nothing but purple in your face every 3 seconds? No. Wait. Well, lucky you, because this robot was made to counter both with ease. Be prepared to use 120% of your brain power to look around the map and make your enemies rage, all while stacking up a crazy amount of damage and speed that puts a giant red target on your back. My name is Yo Brutta, and this is the Pathfinder. No, wait, wrong Pathfinder, wrong again. There we go. Ultra Fast Speed Guide. God dang it, wrong Pathfinder again. Get ready to give enemies the spotlight with Pathfinder's special 3-for-1 globe routine, while still keeping boundaries thanks to its royal resin bubble. Watch as your enemies, robots, and titans become petrified as they helplessly stand in the open with their shields completely deactivated. Pathfinder is a tier 4 robot from the Evil Life faction, released on April 9th, 2024 in Update 10.0. If you don't have any idea what that means, look at its background color. If it's gold, then it's T4. If you're colorblind, then become literate. I can't help you if you can't tell the difference between blue and yellow. In the words of Pixonic, Tier 4 allows Pathfinder to compete against experienced players, as battles are less chaotic and more tactical in champions. Yep, that explains everything.
Are you kidding? Yeah, screw this. I'm not playing this stupid game anymore. Oh my gosh.
Pathfinder's active ability is called Shoot This Guy. Press the giant crosshair icon on a target within 600 meters to stop them in their tracks and spawn a giant yellow arrow on their head. Enemies marked with this universal symbol for pain will be locked down and take 40% more damage from all sources for 6 seconds, making this a deadly skill especially against mobile and squishy targets. However, this ability doesn't end there. Pathfinder doesn't care who gets the kill. For once, kill stealing is officially a team building exercise. If an enemy dies during their glow up, you and any teammates who got an assist or the kill heal a portion of your green and gray health and gain a stack of the Hunter effect, increasing your damage by 20% and your speed by 10%. Remember that 120% brain power from the beginning? Coincidentally, that is also Pathfinder's maximum damage bonus, because Hunter can stack up to 6 times, meaning you can get an additional 120% damage and 60% speed, turning even the weakest of bots into the deadliest of hunters, hence the name. Also make sure you don't forget to keep giving your enemies the spotlight, as the cooldown for this ability is very short. Even if you have max stacks, they'll still take 40% more damage and the healing will still trigger, so make sure to spam and smash that button. While you're already spamming giant buttons, you might as well smash that like and subscribe button. Ignore it and I'll put a giant yellow arrow over your account. Pathfinder also has a passive ability called You Can Look But You Can't Touch. As the Gloat King, Pathfinder knows the importance of boundaries, and because of this, it always makes sure to wear protection during particularly intense confrontations. Pathfinder's intense aura gives enemies a restraining order, causing them to lose 40% of their damage for 5 seconds when they hit the Pathfinder within 800 meters. Unfortunately, the legal system is slow, so be wary, as Pathfinder can only file another restraining order every 12 seconds. Pathfinder has 75,000 health and 35 speed at Mark 1 level 1, or in modern War Robots terms, enough to tank 1 strongly worded bullet. Upgrading it to Mark 2 bumps it to 150,000 health and 47 speed, but Mark 3 only grants it a little bit of extra health, 187,500 to be exact. So even at Mark 3, Pathfinder still has the structural integrity of a wet receipt. This makes Pathfinder one of the most fragile robots in its category and in the game. However, this robot is anything but fragile. Pathfinder belongs to the post 8.7 update generation, meaning its upgrades unlock actual abilities instead of merely making the numbers slightly more number. At Mark 1, Pathfinder's ability heals 5% green and 2.5% gray durability, an amount that would make even Sung Jingwoo cringe at how little healing there is. However, upgrade Pathfinder to Mark 2 and the healing doubles to 10% green and 5% gray. Pathfinder finally unlocks basic health insurance. But Mark 3 is where Pathfinder truly shines, as the healing increases once again to 15% green and 7.5% gray, triple the amount it had at Mark 1. Not only that, at Mark 3, Pathfinder gets a second counter-suppression charge, 2 restraining orders instead of 1. Unlike Nuo and Leo, Pathfinder also doesn't waste these charges against enemies who cannot be suppressed, meaning a Mark 3 Pathfinder can have its bubble activated nearly all the time. Somehow, the robot's passive ability has better target selection than half of my teammates. Even with these two abilities, Pathfinder remains very squishy, keeping it only at A tier. However, Pathfinder has two partners in crime, its signature pilot, John Orsted, and its signature drone, Freezo. John Orsted single-handedly turns Pathfinder into the best shield breaker in the game, disabling all energy shields on the marked target for 3 seconds. Watch as your enemies can do nothing but stand by while you and your teammates tear through the meta. Emmet, gone. Bedward, gone. Atlas, also gone. The only things stopping you from success are your teammates that share one brain cell. Public service announcement, the arrow is not Pathfinder showing you its favorite enemy. Shoot the target, people! This is a group project and I refuse to carry all of you again. Freezo, on the other hand, literally transforms Pathfinder into a tank. Freezo's built-in weapon fires like a Chione, and at level 4 it gives a 5% speed increase. Big numbers, I know. This drone looks weak at first glance, but don't be fooled. This drone becomes strong starting from level 9. Hitting this level gives Pathfinder 95 defense points every time it applies suppression, freeze, or track, with each defense stack lasting for 10 seconds. Having just one stack makes Pathfinder cosplay as the Fenrir, getting almost 50% damage resistance and doubling the Pathfinder's effective health. However, these stacks can coexist, making Pathfinder even tankier the more you invest into it. With one stack, Pathfinder might cosplay as Fenrir, but with 2 stacks, Fenrir starts asking Pathfinder for its build. It doesn't stop there. At level 12, Freezo gives 90% grey damage protection every time Pathfinder's red aura disappears, making Pathfinder take virtually no grey damage while it's on the battlefield. Because of this, a maxed Freezo drone unlocks a brawling playstyle for the Pathfinder and single-handedly turns it into an S-tier robot. Yo-yo, I don't have that gear. Never fear, my financially responsible viewer. Pathfinder does not need the full premium skincare routine to complete its glow up. Here are several builds that will keep it looking fabulous without requiring a Hollywood-sized budget. But for this section, I'll be bringing in a special guest, my clan leader and friend, VS. You might remember him from my rebounds video, and apparently that experience didn't cause enough psychological damage because he agreed to come back. Full disclaimer, this is his first time ever talking in a recording, so be lenient with him. He'll get better at this in the future, I'll make sure of it.
Thanks, brother. For those who don't know me, I made a few guides of my own and spend an arguably unhealthy amount of time helping people with builds over on the War Robots Reddit. So naturally, brother has dragged me here to explain how to spend your resources slightly more responsibly. Let's start with Pathfinder's weapons. If you prefer sniper builds and want to sit further away from the action, there is one option that stands out comfortably above everything else, the Urhags. Combined with, how do you even say this drone? It's a stupid name. Urhag is basically the perfect long-range Pathfinder. The damage is excellent, the range keeps you safe, and there really isn't any major downside. In fact, the biggest downside is what happens to the person you're shooting. Urhag is one of the fastest ways to make somebody rage quit, open Reddit and write a 5-paragraph essay explaining why War Robots is dead and why they're finally quitting the game forever. Don't worry though, they'll be back next week. If you want long-range Pathfinder, this is the build to beat. Mid-range is where Pathfinder has by far the most options, and thankfully, you don't need the newest gear for most of them to work. First up are the hazards. Hazards are still an excellent option, and if you want proof, it's the build I'm running right now in Champs. With great damage, 600 meter range, good reload, and extremely consistent performance, there really isn't anything particularly wrong with them. They just don't apply any useful effects, which keeps them below most of the stronger options. Think of hazards as Pathfinder's Toyota Camry. It isn't winning any beauty contests, but it starts every morning and somehow refuses to die. Next are the Chiones. As Pathfinder's signature weapons, these synergize extremely well with Freezo because their freeze effect helps its defense point ability. Their projectiles also can arc over some cover, and Freeze Blast itself is extremely useful for slowing down targets. The main problem is actually hitting somebody at longer ranges. Chione's projectiles travel slowly enough that sometimes you aren't predicting where your enemy is going, but where their grandchildren are going instead. They're also significantly less impressive without Freezo, so keep that in mind. Next we have the Machairas. Arguably Pathfinder's best mid-range build at the time of this guide, the Machairas are ridiculous. The burst damage is absurd, it applies both fragility and rust, making whatever you shoot at significantly easier for you and your teammates to kill. These weapons allow Pathfinder to hunt even the tankiest of titans with ease and have incredible DPS thanks to their 5-second reload. Definitely not OP, right? Another excellent option are the newest weapon, Lumens. Lumens build damage very quickly thanks to their thermal breach status effect, and their projectiles can curve around corners, making them extremely annoying to fight against. However, they're not quite as oppressive as the strongest meta options. Then there's also an issue where adding additional lumens doesn't increase your damage as much due to a bug. So while 3 lumens should mathematically mean 3 times the fun, apparently mathematics was not invited to this update. It's the only thing holding them back for being a 10 out of 10 really. Next are Naneas. If you've ever wanted to run 2 gun types in one, then this is the build for you. The rifle mode, also known as the damage over time build, is genuinely excellent. Strong damage, useful DOT, good range, everything you could want. And then you switch to slug mode.
Oh man, I can't be late on the first day.
Slug mode feels like repeatedly slamming your head into a wall while stubbing every single toe on the corner of a door at the same time. The fire rate is painfully slow, and suddenly having the firepower of a Nerf gun does not exactly inspire confidence. This build is heavily underrated though, as the rifle mode still packs a strong punch, especially when Pathfinder's stacked up. Next up are the Razdors. Razdors work particularly well with the paralysis drone because it can spam lockdown and the projectiles can bend around corners just like the lumens do. Unfortunately, the sustained damage is pretty poor and the long reload means you're dead the moment a vector rushes you. Don't sleep on this weapon, as next update they could make a big comeback with Quantum Radar against the new Fhtagn robot. Razdors with the paralysis are excellent making sure your enemy can't move. Killing them afterwards on the other hand is somebody else's problem. Pulsars are another usable lockdown option. Good reload, lockdown between track activations and ease of use from any range are its strengths. Its weakness however, poor damage. However, Pathfinder's stacks can still make these work with the damage boosts. Atomizers are a very different option. They're extremely versatile. You can press your enemies from range and once somebody gets close, the sustained damage becomes excellent. The only real downside is overheating. Keep firing too long and the accuracy starts resembling a Stormtrooper family reunion. It also only has a 500 meters range compared with the 600 meters offered by many of Pathfinder's other options. However, with the addition of the new Ultimate Atomizers next update, with them this build could easily become S tier. Speaking of ultimates, quick shout out to Ultimate Shock Train, Ions and most other mid-range UE weapons. While their normal counterparts usually score too low for this guide, most of these UE weapons are top notch for the Pathfinder and many champs players still run them to this day. Make sure you stay behind cover though, as their inconsistent close range firepower makes brawlers a big threat. Back to regular weapons, we have dampers. They're basically a hybrid support and damage. 60% rust can cripple tanks and help your entire team bring them down, while their raw damage is around Atomizer territory. They might not be the strongest damage dealer here, and it also suffers from the same 500 meter range problem, but for an attack support Pathfinder, they actually perform surprisingly well. And finally, if your preferred playstyle involves being hated by everyone in the lobby, well I have the build for you. Bash can fire over cover, and works particularly well if you're camping in team deathmatch. So if you ever looked at Hurricane players and thought, you know what, I want people to hate me too, this is the build for you. Unlike Hurricanes though, Bash can actually hit what it's aiming at, which is already a significant advantage over them. Unfortunately, it struggles outside of team deathmatch. Shields can completely wall it if you lack the pilot or don't time your ability well, and its single target damage isn't particularly impressive. Not to mention, they now require 3-second lock-on before actually firing. However, when brawlers are out of the meta, this build easily becomes one of the stronger builds, bumping the rating from around a 5 to a 7. A quick section about Growlers. Growler has great damage, deals 100% grey damage, and Resonance adds a flat 25,000 grey damage every time it activates. Basically just a grey damage blast charge. The problem is the spread. You have to move considerably closer to enemies than Pathfinder normally wants, and the reload isn't exactly short. That's why despite the 500 meter range, the Growlers work best more at a close range, hence the mixed range typing. It works, but you're trading Pathfinder's more comfortable mid-range playstyle for a much more dangerous range, so be careful when running it. Now for close range builds. Let's start with one enormous disclaimer here. Pathfinder has the durability of a wet tissue before Freezo gets involved, so trying to brawl without it is a fantastic way to turn your robot into a free bag of silver. Remember, these guys don't include ultimate gear, so let's start off with a quick word about them. Many close-range UE builds are top tier. Cryo, Scourges and Storms are some prime examples. If you have a close-range set of ultimate weapons that are leveled, run them. Most of them work fantastically on Pathfinder with Freezo. But moving on from ultimates, the strongest option for this category are obviously the Fahrenheits. The damage is extremely high and consistent, splash radius is ridiculous, and the projectiles curve slightly. The only real downside is the range. You have to get close enough that enemies can actually shoot back, which is generally not what Pathfinder wants. But with Freezo, this weapon lives up to its name.
That's good, that's what I like to see. Sweet weasel.
Next are the Krokos. Kroko has a strong single shot damage, charges the mothership quickly, and its peek and shoot gameplay fits Pathfinder surprisingly well. The major weakness is Aegis shields. If somebody has one, congratulations, you have discovered the Kroko's natural predator. Of course, that isn't an issue if you have Pathfinder's Violet, but without it, this build isn't really recommended. Kroko also gets more damage as you take more damage, which isn't exactly what Pathfinder wants. Still, it's a very solid build if you choose to run it. It's also the build Brother runs, so that's gotta mean something, right? Then we have Porthos. Their auto aim is convenient, it heals you while firing, but the damage is only average and the reload is painfully long. Simply put, it's just usable. That's probably the nicest thing I can say about it. Shatters have a similar problem. It can hit surprisingly well at range for a shotgun and has strong single shot damage, but regenerating Aegis shields make life miserable for it. Only use it if you have the pilot or you're desperate for weapons. And finally the Maces. Shares the same weakness as Shatters but amplified. The blast charge effect is crucial for this weapon, so shields just make this weapon a lot weaker. Just goes to show you how goated the Pathfinder pilot really is. With Sharpshooter, Mace has strong damage, fast burst, and blast charge gives you flat 25,000 damage when triggered. The problem is, it's still a shotgun. Pathfinder normally likes standing comfortably hundreds of meters away while somebody else gets shot. Maces require you to walk directly towards the problem. Not ideal when your robot's made out of wet receipts. There are also a few weapons that technically work, although I wouldn't recommend investing heavily into them. Disciplines can fire over cover and have a large magazine, but the fire rate is painfully slow and the accuracy is about as reliable as a drunk geezer playing darts at the pub. And the blast charge builder? About as efficient as your average random teammate capturing beacons. Absolutely shocking. Hussars have a solid burst damage and good range, but the reload is poor and the sustained damage is even worse. Skadis have the same problem. The initial burst is actually pretty good, and the freeze helps get defense points from Freezo, but your ammunition lasts approximately 3 business seconds before you're staring at a reload animation again. And Labrys gives you auto aim and blast charge, but their raw damage simply isn't that impressive, and it struggles to build momentum at the beginning of a fight. These weapons can work, but there are just so many better places to spend your resources. And of course, we can't forget the free-to-play special, the Mix and Match. Pathfinder makes even random weapons work, so feel free to experiment. Now for the drones. This section is incredibly complicated. Just kidding, Freezo. That's literally it, that's the list, Freezo. It's easily Pathfinder's best drone and makes every other option significantly worse by comparison. But if you don't own one, you still have a few alternatives. For me, Seeker gets a 7 out of 10. Quantum Radar is useful, and its defensive abilities, namely counter suppression and counter blind, are really solid. Unfortunately, it suffers from the devastating condition known as not being Freezo. Shai also gets a 7. The double last stand interaction is funny, and it gives you a more consistent long-term defense. Again, however, it's essentially Freezo at home. For extremely long-range setups, the drone I have no idea how to say, please pick better names, Pixonic, works. Its bonuses are useful when using weapons above 800 meters, which basically means Urhag is the only reason you'd ever equip it. Outside of that niche, there isn't really much reason to use it. Finally, Qingting gets a 6. It gives Pathfinder excellent offensive pressure and extremely long lockdown, increasing it from 6 seconds to a whopping 9 seconds. Unfortunately, it gives you basically no defense whatsoever. So congratulations, you now have enormous offensive potential while retaining the structural integrity of a single-ply Kleenex. For modules, Pathfinder works best when you're trying to build around its support role rather than trying to turn it into something it isn't. For passive modules, Thermonuclear Reactor, Robot Accelerator and Last Stand is my personal choice and usually the best choice for Pathfinder 99% of the time. However, if your Pathfinder's Mark III and you have a max pilot and Freezo drone, or you play at close range, it might be worth swapping from the robot accelerator to the repair amp, as Pathfinder already becomes fast enough thanks to its ability, and the bonus healing from the RA frees up spots that healing pilot skills would normally take up if you need more room for other stuff. For your active module, Phase Shift is far above the rest, as it allows you to survive dangerous situations and buys time for your cooldowns. Advanced Repair Unit gives you additional sustain if you play more aggressively, but Quantum Radar is also a shout if you're feeling brave, as it basically lets Pathfinder counter everything not called stasis or invisibility. And finally, now for the pilots. John. That's it. Go home. There's nothing else. His shield breaking effect is simply too valuable to give up on Pathfinder. If you don't have John, wait here until you get your John.
Thanks, VS. And now that you know the basics of how to make your enemies superstars, it's time to make yourself the superstar with these tips and tricks. When using your ability, sometimes it's best to wait to track the enemy until they're about to die, as Pathfinder itself does not need a kill or assist to get the Hunter stack. Use this to ramp up a few stacks of Hunter before joining your team and slaughtering your enemies. Pathfinder's trackability can also be used on targets farther than 600 meters away by abusing server lag. Press the ability before quickly swapping to a farther target to track the enemy and leave them wondering how they just got locked down. This is especially useful for when your mouth-breathing teammates fight titans in the enemy's spawn, as you can support them while still being in your spawn. Make sure to focus enemies with absorber shields, as the Pathfinder's biggest strength is being racist towards purple folk.
Hey, knock it off! There's a kid back there!
I'm in danger!
Regardless of your Pathfinder's level, remember that Pathfinder is first and foremost a support bot. Your job is not to immediately charge into 5 enemies and discover how quickly less than 200,000 durability can disappear. Your job is to stay behind your front line, identify vulnerable or important targets, mark them, and turn those enemies into an all-you-can-eat team buffet. Once your hunter stacks start building up, you can become considerably more aggressive. At that point, Pathfinder goes from to
fine. I'll do it myself.
And finally, remember that having lots of damage and speed does not make Pathfinder a god. And yes, that also goes if you have Freezo. If your Pathfinder is Mark 1 or Mark 2, don't even consider standing in the open for too long, as the healing you get from your ability is too little to do anything. Do not be afraid to be very afraid and run a sniper or mid-range build to deal damage and support your team, especially your titans. And remember to always watch your back, as enemies will also want to give Pathfinder the spotlight as they ignore everyone else to get your autograph and give you backshots. Everyone likes superstars, but no one likes a show-off. Keep running around and annoy your enemies with shield break and deathmark while keeping them in the spotlight with lockdown. Play Pathfinder like the annoying little hyena it was born to be by searching for 1 HP targets and marking them just before they die. Once you have 6 stacks, continue to let your teammates soften them up, steal the kill, secure our kill, to get extra healing and immediately start looking for your next victim. And always remember, it's not always about having the biggest spotlight, it's about making it feel satisfying. My name is Yo Brutta, and this was Pathfinder and Ultra Fast Speed Guide. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next one. Make sure to also check out the inspiration for the series, Shinbin Takuzo and his Ultra Fast Speed Guides, link in the description and pinned comment down below. Also make sure to check out VS on Reddit, go show him lots of love as he was a huge help as always. He also has a giant list of guides over on Reddit, a link to his wonderful collection is in the description and pinned comment down below as well. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't yet, and comment what bot you'd like to see get the next Ultra Fast Speed Guide. That's all for now, and as always, Yo Brutta signing off. Ignore this guy. Yeah, see you guys later. Peace.